everyone. Welcome to RPV City Talk. I'm Liz Brown Swanson here with Rancho Palos Verdes Mayor Dave Bradley. And when I say here, we're at Trump National Golf Club on the most gorgeous Rancho Palos Verdes kind of day. How are you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Fantastic. You cannot beat this weather, you cannot beat this view, and you cannot beat living in the city of Rancho Palos Verdes.
Absolutely. You were just here. You just conducted your monthly mayor's breakfast. Last month you were at Terranea. You go back and forth and you meet with the local chairs of the committees and commissions. And so tell us, how did the breakfast go? What'd you talk about?
It went really well. I mean, we talk about everything going on in the city. I give a little bit of an overview of what's going on with the city council, kind of how the council's taking the city. We get some inputs from the chairs of the different committees and commissions, talk about things going on, talk about where we're going, talking about current events. It's a really wide-ranging breakfast. It's great to connect with our committees and, just get around the city and get out there. So it's a really great opportunity to meet with our leaders.
And of course, Captain Powers with the Alameda Sheriff Station, he joins you for all
Absolutely.
these breakfasts. In fact, he comes to every city council meeting.
He does.
He also released the quarterly local report that he does on the local crime stats in RPV and the Peninsula. Can you share a little bit about where we are with public safety? We'll start there.
Sure. We always concentrate on public safety. And unfortunately, right now, we see a little bit of an uptick in some residential burglaries and a little bit of an uptick in grand theft auto. So we're looking at ways to calm that. But probably one of the biggest things that we talked about is, folks trying to help the Sheriff's Department and law enforcement by locking up their valuables, locking their doors, locking their cars, not putting valuables out in plain sight. It seems pretty common sense, but that really does help, and it helps reduce the crimes of opportunity where somebody's walking by and sees a laptop on somebody's front seat and then takes it. So this is one of the things that we want to help our residents help themselves, as well as the see something, say something. The Alameda Sheriff Station can't do anything if they don't know about it. One of the things we discussed this morning is Captain Powers will say that people will report things on Nextdoor, that there was a strange person, a strange car, but they don't call the Alameda Sheriff Station to report it. If we don't talk to the sheriff's station, we can't do anything about it. So It's under the heading of see something, say something.
So moving on, we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about public safety, and that being that, the city spends a lot of resources. You do all you can to keep layering and protecting. And you've got a new program called RPV Community Action Network that the council just approved at the February 15th meeting, and talked also about what we have called a public safety reimbursement program. So just give us highlights of those programs.
Absolutely. So we're trying to rebrand our public safety. So RPV CAN seems to be a little bit catchier of a phrase than ADRC.
Yes.
So it's just about trying to help the neighborhood come together, working with our neighborhood captains, Neighborhood Watch, and helping with integration of the community together. We have continued with our subsidies of neighborhood electronic monitoring, so different neighborhoods can work with the city to get installed flock cameras, which is another tool in the tool box for public safety.
Right. The camera network around the city continues to grow. We have the ALPR cameras.
We have ALPR looking at license plates. We have the flock cameras that also do license plate reading, but also do some video playback, so we can see what has happened after the fact. It's really helpful in crime prosecution and looking at what's happened.
Well, here we are at Trump National, and it doesn't get any better than this. I think we've had some people golfing behind us, taking hikes. We got Founders Park down below, the city's park. So let's talk a little bit about right here. And 20 years ago, the former President Trump bought this out of bankruptcy, and here we are today. So tell us what you know about the role it serves in our city right now.
So Ocean Trails was developed years ago as a golf course. Unfortunately, it fell into disrepair. We had the infamous 18th hole sliding into the Pacific Ocean, and then the Trump organization came through well before the former president was even looking at politics, and bought the property and has revitalized it. It is an amazing piece of property. You can see the views behind us, which is absolutely stunning. During the pandemic, golf has made a dramatic resurgence as one of those sports you can do safely, even in a pandemic. So I believe golf here at the course we haven't had this much play since it was founded as Ocean Trails years ago. So today we're getting tax revenue from the golf course like never before.
I think a 300% increase is what
Yes.
I'm noting here
Exactly.
from 2021-22 budget.
So it's just a fantastic resource. There were some at the beginning. We had some issues between the city and the management organization. But today that is all behind us.
Right.
Another one of our fantastic corporate partners within the city, helping provide recreation opportunities for our residents, for our guests, and contributing to the tax revenue for the city, which is outstanding. It's a great win-win.
Awesome. Let's talk more about the partnership with the city and the organization. As I mentioned down below, we see Founders Parks here. People can come get married here. And then there's the trail system that's fabulous. And there are some trails that remain closed. Can you give us an update on what's going on with that?
Absolutely. So as part of the development agreement, when it was Ocean Trails, some of the property was deeded to the city, but the organization operating the golf course was going to maintain those trails and those accesses for the city, which worked really great as a partnership. Over the last 2.5 years, a couple of the trails have had some significant erosion. As we saw some really heavy rains, a couple of the bridges have become unstable. So we're working with the Trump organization, with the golf course management, to look at how to revitalize those trails, make them stable, ensure that they're safe for the community. But it's a great partnership, and we're just trying to figure out how to minimize the erosion and make sure those trails are safe for everyone.
Anything else you want to add? We're going to move on and talk about issues before the city council.
No, just say it's another beautiful day out here on the golf course.
Yeah, we got to get you out here with your clubs. And I was mentioning today before we start that this is the year that I've decided I am going to take up golf. Any tips? Take it slow.
Unfortunately, golf is a 4-letter word.
There. Well, we're going to move on to a 6-letter word, Hatano.
Hatano
Hatano Farm. It's been making headlines. We've been all over the news about the issue before the council regarding the city's lease with the Hatano Farm. There's so much history with this farm right up the street from where we're sitting now. Let's talk about what has happened with the city council debating the future of this farm. Will it stay? Will it go? What's going on?
So Hatano Farm, the last vestige of the Japanese local farmers on the peninsula. Hatano Farm no longer being operated by Mr. Hatano, who passed several years ago, but his longtime foreman, who I think came to work for the Hatanos as a young man and has been there since the early 80s.
I think 40 years.
Is currently operating it. At our council meeting Tuesday night, we voted to continue with the termination of the direct lease. That lease was out of compliance with our encumbrances when we inherited that land from the federal government. There's been so much activity and discussion about it. It was just something that the city council didn't think we could continue with. But one of the things that we did want to do is to look at turning the Hatano Farm into a National Historic Site and have it as an operating farm as an ode to the Japanese farmers of the peninsula. So we hope that Mr. Martinez will continue to operate the farm for us as we explore different ways to bring him on as to help operate the farm. That was one of the directions that we gave to staff. We were going to continue with the termination of the lease, which ends in August, which is unfortunate, but the upside is that we're going to continue to try to operate the farm as it currently is and turn it into a National Historic Site, an operating National Historic Site. I've always thought that if we can operate it as a working farm, it's so much more of a monument than just a brass plaque on the hillside.
Yeah, to preserve the legacy of the Japanese farming operations here, I think that 5.5 acres site is what's left. In fact, right here at Trump National, this used to be where they were farming garbanzo beans. Our city founder, Councilmember Ken Dida, pointed out this is where the first crops of garbanzo beans enter the country, right?
Well, it is the first place. And what I didn't know is that in the 40s there was a garbanzo bean blight, and the Japanese farmers on the peninsula were the ones that discovered how to solve the garbanzo bean blight. So if it wasn't for farming on the peninsula, you probably wouldn't have garbanzo beans today. Something I had no idea of.
I know down here at Founders Park there is a plaque that honors the Japanese farmers.
Yes.
So we're glad you got through all that, and stay tuned for the future of how this historic site,
More to come.
The designation comes about. All right. Other issues before the council, we always look at the past few meetings during the month of February. The council did hire a state lobbyist.
Yes, we did.
How did what was the criteria to do this? Why did you make that decision at this time?
So it's one of those things, as we've seen a lot of legislation coming out of Sacramento that may not be completely in line with local control, in line with Rancho Palos Verdes, the South Bay, or the Peninsula cities. We're going to do a pilot project for the next year, hire a lobbyist up in Sacramento to see if we can get more access to some of our state lawmakers. See if we can help them understand in a broader sense some of the issues of the South Bay and Rancho Palos Verdes specifically, to make sure that a broader spectrum of our state legislators understand our issues, not just our local legislators. So it's an attempt to see if we can broaden our support. We're going to do it for a year, see how it goes, see if we get value for it, and we're going to come back and readdress it in 2023.
Especially in the wake of what's been going on with SB 9 and SB 10, those Senate bills that are affecting the housing element and all of that. I think it's really made us really say, look,
absolutely.
we
SB 9, SB 10, the RENA numbers, all of the housing, the kind of attack on local control, which is what one of the draft constitutional amendments is going after, is pushing local control back to the cities, back to the localities, back to folks that understand what's going on the ground better than anyone.
Mm-hmm. And I know city staff, we can go, and council has made sure to keep people up to date. You've got the legislative corner now on the city corner, it's called, on the website.
Absolutely.
So you can go check out the website to see some of the issues that the city is looking into at the state level.
Yep.
And with that, we're going to move on to the public hearing that was held at the February 15th meeting regarding coastal views.
Yep.
I mean, this is it. This is what you got to protect. It's the coastal view corridors. So explain what was being considered during the hearing regarding views, which has to do with hedges and fences and making sure we can still see this gorgeous setting.
Absolutely. So one of the issues that we were debating was a change to the walls and fences ordinance to make sure that when you're driving around and driving on the major arteries within the city, you can see the beautiful views. Sometimes hedges are put up with the best intention and they have a tendency to grow, and then it's kind of creeping incrementalism. Mm-hmm. And then one day you're driving along PV Drive West and you can no longer see the water. So this was to make sure that we have a fair and balanced ordinance to help us keep those monuments down and allow us to enjoy the phenomenal views that we have here in the peninsula. And it was just meant to try to make it equitable for everyone.
Right. And this is going to tie into the next agenda item we want to have a conversation about, which had also to do with keeping views restored, which is along PV Drive West, where you have the HOA, Oceanfront Estates. Oceanfront Estates representative homeowners from their group were before council just because there was a dispute over who has to maintain what's going on with what's really the acacia that borders the 79 homes there. So explain what the outcome of that and these residents that were involved and what the solution is.
So the Oceanfront Estates issue we talked about was just a discussion with that HOA on what their HOA was responsible for and what the city was responsible for. As the Oceanfront Estate was developed, the city is responsible and has the Land Conservancy operating for us certain properties there to maintain it into natural habitat. There is a buffer around that is a responsibility of Oceanfront Estates to maintain.
Which is fire break, right?
The fire break, which was part of the original deed restriction. And it was just a discussion discussion between the city and the homeowners association on who was responsible for what. I believe Oceanfront Estates are currently in the process of trimming all of the bushes in their responsible area, and the city is also working with the Conservancy as our agent to help trim those as well. There are acacia that have grown up in that area. I personally hope that we get to remove those acacia non-native invasive species on here on the peninsula, high fire hazard, and we're really working to try to eradicate as much as possible the acacia from the.
And now we're going to go on to talk about the Civic Center project. This is big.
Yes.
The council took a big step forward in the journey to build a new center. You approved 2 project management contracts. So speak about those.
So one of the lessons learned we did from Ladera Linda, the development of the Ladera Linda Park and Community Center, was that we didn't bring on a professional project manager early enough. So we've learned from our mistakes. We're bringing on a professional project manager for the Civic Center to help us with the early development of the layout of the site, incorporation of various features, and help lead the development of that project. It's an exciting time. We're moving forward on it, and it's going to be a beautiful addition to the city when it finally gets finished.
Right. And I know by the time this is airing, you've just gone through recruitment for a new Civic Center Advisory Committee member.
Exactly. We will be doing interviews at the next council meeting for the Civic Center Advisory Committee, where we did have one person resign, unfortunately. So we're looking to bolster that committee. Unfortunately, I think somebody coined the term is our former member on that committee got off the train right as it was leaving the station. But, we all have lives outside of our civic volunteer. So I totally understand. But we're looking to get another person back on that committee because we are leaving the station, and it is exciting.
And you are traveling in a great direction, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Because this has been long talked about, and we're really excited. And that is such an important committee. In fact, you're going to be co-hosting a workshop, I believe, on March 10th. That it says that the Finance Advisory Committee and the Civic Center Advisory Committee, they're all going to be having a workshop. I just want to announce on March 10th. So that'll be on Zoom.
Absolutely. So we'll be trying to, look at both financing as opposed to what the infrastructure is around this, the new Civic Center. So it's exciting times. We're working to make sure we have full public input as we move forward on what our residents want and need in the new Civic Center.
Now this next item we're going to talk about, I think it's going to have your wheels spinning.
Oh, yes.
We are going to talk
Big
about
ones and small ones.
There we go. Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation, presented to the council their plans for I'm going to get this right, a bicycle and pedestrian improvement project, which is to create a bike lane along Western Avenue. I think 2 miles of it is in our city.
Yes.
So with that, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. So Caltrans operates and is responsible for Western Avenue along that portion of the city's border. Caltrans came to us with an idea of putting in a bike lane and pedestrian access, which on the surface sounds great until you look at the details. And some of it is to narrow the median, reduce the lane width from 12 feet to 10 feet to allow the area to be made into a bike lane. Western, for those of us that travel Western on a daily basis, we all know that in the afternoons and the evening, the traffic is horrendous there already. I believe that narrowing those lanes is only going to hurt the traffic along there. And then with the sale and development of Ponte Vista properties there where the former Navy housing was, we're going to have even more congestion there right about around Green Hills. So the City Council has some grave concerns that we are going to exacerbate a project or a problem of traffic congestion along Western even more. In the idea of a good idea, but the implementation we think is going to have a negative impact. So we're trying to work with Caltrans to come up with a different project that will be more conducive to helping the arterial flow along Western Avenue, both in the morning and the evening, as well as being able to have a safe pedestrian and safe bike lane.
Got it. But the reality is, in the end, you can give input as a city council and body, but it's really Caltrans' deal. Is that right?
Absolutely. We can only advise and we can bring up issues, but it is not ours. So, unfortunately, Caltrans sometimes has goals that they need to accomplish, and sometimes it's a little bit of a check mark in the box. And sometimes when you have a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail.
Well, you'll keep us posted on what happens and exactly when this project might start.
Absolutely.
All right. The City Council received last month a report summarizing services, or I should say during February, provided by LA County to Rancho Palos Verdes RPV residents. I can talk. And of course, we think of the big one is with the Sheriff's Department.
Absolutely.
So kind of talk about what was discovered through this reporting of county services and probably what you already knew, but sharing with the public.
So it's a little interesting how we contract for county services. Fire is our fire department. LA County Fire is funded by a direct proportion of our current property taxes. It doesn't come to the city. It doesn't come out of our general budget. Whereas the LA Sheriff's support for law enforcement comes out of the general fund for the city. So this was just a report on what we get through our tax dollars that are directly allocated from our property taxes versus what we pay for explicitly out of our city budget. So out of general tax dollars, we're getting most of our services, but then out of specific funding, we fund Sheriff's Department, Animal Control, and then general services from the county.
All right, and it's all on the website. Let's move on to the next agenda item, that you decided on distributing material to voluntary implementation of smoke-free policies in multi-family housing units. So talk about the smoke-free strategy here and the goals and how this all came together.
So this is, trying to help our citizens be healthier. In some of the multifamily apartment buildings and high-density housing we have in the city, we've had some complaints, certainly during COVID when people were stuck at home, of people, one unit smoking or folks outside smoking and it going into another unit, and people having secondhand smoke in their residence and have no way to really prevent it. So this was a vote that we took last Tuesday to implement a voluntary ordinance to limit smoking in multifamily housing to help our folks limit the amount of secondary smoke that they are exposed to.
Okay. Well, thanks for keeping RPV healthy. Good move. At the February 1st City Council meeting, you received a plaque for all your service in the Planning Commission. Took them a while to get there, but, better late than never. And because before you were in the City Council, you served, again, the community on the commission. And the Mayor Pro Tem gave you the award and listed all the things. You've done so many things for our city, so thank you. I want to thank you. But one of the accomplishments that came up was, while you were in Planning Commission, had to do with the city's implementing a policy that had to do with banning short-term rentals, and I remember that got a lot of momentum, and so I just made me think, oh man, wonder how that policy is doing these days. So with that, can you tell us about that particular policy that happened when you were on the Planning Commission? Sure.
So I think that things are working well. The issue that we had, and we had a lot of complaints from neighbors of properties that were going to ultra short-term rentals, and the
Airbnb, basically, like that.
It was a B&B, but it was for one night or two nights. And what was happening in some of our more congested areas of the city, small cul-de-sacs, was they were being turned into party houses. So there would be a large party for one night, and there would be trash all over the street, all over the neighborhood. There would be major disruptions in traffic flows, which just really wasn't consistent with how RPV is laid out. It was a public safety issue because there was parking all over, which was limiting access for our sheriff and our fire department. So we decided, and we suggested to the council at the time, when I was chairman of the Planning Commission, that we needed to put a moratorium on that. Right now, I believe it's working well, and we have seen a reduction in that impact to the city.
Well, all right. Well, I'm glad that that's really worked out well. You mentioned parties was part of the reason why we decided, to try to work on this issue, but our city's starting to plan a big party.
We are going to
we're not against parties, but it's the right kind of parties. 50th anniversary. So this is really exciting, and the council's approved a list of ideas and things coming up. So let's talk about this.
So yes, so this year we're going to kick off the 50th anniversary celebration of the founding of the city back in 1973. It is a tremendous time to be the mayor and to kick off this celebration. I can't believe that I was here 50 years ago. Since I'm only 40.
Yes.
But it's exciting that the city is on the verge of its 50th birthday. And a part of that, city staff is working to make a bunch of series of parties, events, all culminating in on September 7th. 2023, a anniversary party that we'll be hosting at Terranea. So that's going to be fun, but we'll have a series of events along the way that staff is currently planning and trying to flesh out what we're going to do.
Right, starting with our city founder, Ken Dida.
Ken Dida, one of our longest serving city councilmen. We are going to dedicate the new Civic Center to Ken Dida. That did take a waiving of one of our council policies of not naming anything in the city after a serving politician or a living council member. But with a person that was on the city council back in 1973 and helped found the city, the same gentleman on the city council 50 years later, with all that he has done for this city and all the time that he's contributed, we thought what more of a fitting tribute while he was alive, he was on the council, to actually name something after him and show our support and our thanks for everything that he's done over the years.
Yep, I think that's how we're going to kick off, right? This 1 year celebration, and it's going to happen like the 1 year prior to the 50th anniversary date in September. Well, we're going to start to wrap up the show, and I'd like you at this time just to share mayoral activities. You as mayor, you're in the community representing all of us, so thank you, and perhaps some things you've done you might want to highlight for us.
So, we are just trying to move the city forward. We're coming out of COVID. LA County has changed the mask mandate in the last couple of days to allow no masks outdoor, still focused on having masks indoor to try to limit the spread. Hopefully that comes down as well in the near future, and we can get back to kind of the new normal. One of the things that I do want to do, and you're going to be part of it, is we're going to be moving around the city over the next year, doing these city talks at different landmarks from all over the city. I'm not a big fan of being inside, especially when we live in a place like this. So you're going to see us popping up at various places all over the city, from the east side to the west side, to the north side to the south side. And really highlight just the beauty of our city and the diversity of our city.
And I know one place Dave wants to not just pop up, but pop in, and that is at the Point Vicente Lighthouse. We are going to get him in there hosting a mayor show for sure. We're going to go to Hatano Farm and just move around this community. Thankfully, we have so many great places to share what's going on. Any other final mayor's announcements?
No, I think everything, is moving forward. It's exciting to be on the verge of our 50th anniversary. We're moving forward with trying to take care of housing and how that affects the city. Ladera Linda, the Civic Center, and Portuguese Bend all are moving forward to try to come up with project managers, and solutions. We didn't talk about Portuguese Bend, but we recently hired a construction project manager to help us with Portuguese Bend remediation. One of the things is, we just can't continue to repave PV Drive South. So we're just we're moving forward with the different projects, and it's exciting.
So we will catch you on the next RPV City Talk. Again, thanks to the Trump Organization. And I know Dave's going to go grab his golf clubs. No.
I wish.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this edition of RPV City Talk. Take care, everyone. See you next time.